Hello everyone. In our Parshat Chayei Sarah, we have the famous story after the passing of Sarah that Abraham attempts to purchase and successfully does so Me'arat HaMachpelah, where Sarah is buried, and ultimately he himself and also the other Avot and Imahot will also be buried. Now, Abraham goes through some very difficult negotiations, albeit on the surface polite negotiations, both with the people of Bnei Chet and also with Ephron, to purchase the Me'arat HaMachpelah. But it wasn't so simple, because he did not just want a place to bury his dead, but he wanted what would be in a chuzat kever. In other words, he wanted to buy it, and he wanted it to be permanently in the possession of himself and his family, that should be a resting place for Sarah, and also later on for himself and for future generations as well. And he had to go through some very difficult negotiations, albeit polite ones, until he ultimately reached the successful outcome that he was desiring. Now, when we analyze the story closely, there is a very interesting linguistic phenomenon, which Rav Elchanan Samet has pointed out in his article on this parasha. And that is as follows. When we read the first few psukim, the psukim speak directly about Sarah by name. It says, Vayu Chayei Sarah, Shnei Chayei Sarah, Vatamat Sarah. However, when Abraham begins his negotiations with Bnei Chet, he does not mention Sarah by name, nor do they mention her by name, but rather she's always referred to as the met. And it's always kvor metecha, it's always the dead of Abraham. In other words, Sarah is not referred to by name, but rather my dead, your dead. In other words, the dead person belonging to Abraham. That's how Sarah is referred to, until the final verse after Abraham has successfully purchased Me'arat HaMachpelah. Then again Sarah is referred to by name. V'acharechen kavar Abraham et Sarah ishto. What is the meaning of this? Why is Sarah referred to by name at the beginning and at the end of the story, and in the middle she's just referred to as the met belonging to Abraham? So Rav Samet suggests the following very interesting answer. There's a difference from the perspective of Abraham and from the perspective of the people that he was negotiating with. The people who he was negotiating with did not have so much of an interest in Sarah. They did have an interest in Sarah in the fact that she was belonging to Abraham, because Abraham was a person that they highly respected, as they say, Nisi Elokim ata betochenu. So from their perspective, it was the dead belonging to Abraham, and that was the significance of the negotiations, because this was a person significant to Abraham, but not because of Sarah's own personal identity. And Abraham, who was negotiating with them, spoke to them in the language that they would understand, saying, this is my dead. Out of respect to me, please accept my request to purchase for full price the Me'arat HaMachpelah, which will eternally belong to myself. However, from Abraham's perspective, all these efforts were focused on Sarah, his wife, that he knew as Sarah and he personally loved and appreciated. So Abraham, from his perspective, it was always about Sarah. But when he was negotiating with the Bnei Chet, he spoke about Sarah from their perspective, which was the met of Abraham. So we see in the story something very interesting. We see Abraham's own goal, what drove him through all this process, was his love for Sarah and his desire to bring her to a respectable burial place in a chuzat kever, in a family burial plot, which will eternally remain to the family. To go through that, he did everything that was necessary. He went through the negotiations. He didn't get upset. He patiently worked on it all until he reached a successful outcome. And then he was able to bring, again, Sarah's referred to by name, because now he's able to turn back his attention to his true focus this whole time, was to show his love and honor for his beloved Sarah and bring her to a respectful and final burial place. And that is one of the important significance messages that come from this story. Shabbat Shalom to everyone.